we go back quite a long way to when we were training in Masjid Umar, I remember. That's the first time I really came across you. So if we can't get straight into it, take me back to your early days of martial arts. When did you start?
It started off from a family gym. So it started off as an MMA gym combined with boxing. And I remember in them days it was Waj. He was one of the coaches there. And yeah, so it set up from there. And from there, that's when I started learning mixed martial arts.
What about before? Did you do anything before mixed martial arts?
No, not really. I did a bit of boxing. So my younger brother, he was predominantly, he used to do a lot of the boxing training. And with myself, I used to just go in the gym with him. This was in the Cleckheaton days, of the gym in Cleckheaton. And I used to just go learn a bit of boxing. But I wasn't as dedicated. It was just more or less self-defense. I was kind of like just learning it. And then obviously when the family gym opened, we used a bit of the boxing skills there. And then we put it into a bit more mixed martial arts.
How long ago was the family gym?
Oh God, it started off in 2010, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
yeah, 2010, and yeah. So it was. I remember it was just like in a big factory, big flooring, and we literally had nothing, and then it just started building up towards an MMA gym.
I remember, so by Muhammad, who was on the previous podcast, we used to do MMA back before we knew knew anything really. And we went over to KBW and used a cage once for an interclub thing. But like we were just balling in the cage, just like going at it. So that's the first time I ever went over to KBW. But that was I don't even, I'm horrible with dates, so I don't remember the dates. So you did some boxing just on and off, and then your family opens up the. So what gave you the spark to say, actually, no, I want to do this MMA stuff?
It was just gradually, I think, like just learning it, training, and then just gradually, slowly, I started getting into the mixed martial arts. But then it came to a point where KBW got scrapped the MMA and he went straight into boxing. And that's the point where obviously I decided, right, you know, I'm gonna go elsewhere and learn a bit more mixed martial arts, because he went into a boxing gym. But yeah, just generally, I think for me, it was more being involved with the family. Like my brothers used to go train, it kind of got me to train. I won't say I was fully dedicated to it. It was just more or less, I used to just go because my brothers were going and my cousins were going, and it just kind of family thing where we encourage each other to go and train.
I was looking back at some of your YouTube videos yesterday, right? And some of them are from a while ago. How long have you been in MMA now?
I would say, I think my first fight was, again, 2012, 2011. Again,
So not long after
Yeah. I think probably we were training for maybe a year, and then I had my first amateur fight. I don't think that's recorded on Topology. In fact, I had 2 amateur fights which weren't recorded on Topology. So had them 2 amateur fights, and then from there I actually went into semi-pro, and that was my first actual fight with obviously a bit more contact. But yeah, it's been a long time. Again, obviously I've had a lot of time on and off, but yeah, it's been a long time.
I want to talk about your evolution as a fighter, because going back to the first fights that you had, to say that you were a little bit rough around the edges, I don't think is unfair, right? Because like you just come out like this raging bull, and like it's all striking. Like you don't want none of the ground game. So how's your style of fighting evolved over the years?
I think like with myself, I've always relied on my striking. If I can get a fight just striking, I'll go strike.
And you've done some boxing matches, right?
Yeah. Of course, yeah. So like boxing is my background. That's what I've majority times focused on, my striking, because like I said, I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'3". I've got the limbs, I've got the arms, everything. So like I've always focused on boxing, and plus having a family gym that's based in boxing, that's kind of like helped me train more in boxing and focus more on boxing. But yeah, I've always relied on my striking, but then gradually I'll start working on my ground game as well, and been focusing on the fundamentals on the ground game and just making sure I can control myself on that side as well.
So you've done, and we're going to go into the ground game because this is the Fluent State of BJJ podcast. So we're going to go to the ground game in a second. But you also started incorporating a lot more kicking in more recent years and more recent fights. So I've seen it in some of your early where you're kicking. I'm just like, well, you're just throwing a kick because like the other guy threw a kick. But more recently, especially one of your more recent ones, you finished it with the like you just one kick and it was done, right? And a previous one you've done in knee. So you improving the striking in terms of the whole round package as well, right?
Yeah, I think like with myself now, I'm starting to focus more all round on my game. Even I'm trying to work a lot on my wrestling. There's a lot of things now I'm trying to work on. I think before, like I used to focus too much on my striking, but now I'm trying to work all the way around, all round on my game. So yeah, I'm trying to work on my kicks. I'm trying to work on my elbows. I'm trying to work on my wrestling. I'm trying to work on my ground game. And yeah, it's interesting because I think the game from that period, it's it's rised. It's a different ball game now. The skill level's harder. It's much more it's much more tougher now. So I think like you have to make sure you're all round as a fighter.
At what point in your martial art career did you decide or did you realize actually I need some ground game? Was it in a fight or what was it that made that thing that actually no, I need to do some groundwork?
I think like again, as mentioned, like the game's rising, and I think every fight I've had I required ground game, but luckily enough, a lot of the times the opponents that I've had, it's resulted in on strikes. So I've kind of used my advantages. But I think coming closer towards end of my amateur and going into pro, the ground game has come in now. I think a lot of fighters now, there's different type of style of fighters. And during that period, I think when I started, it felt like more striking based. But now the game's changed. Now you've got guys who are like, wrestlers, and it's a bit more different, the game. So I think now it's come to a point where, I've realized, what, we need to work on the ground and focus more on wrestling. And like I said, the striking is always something that I can always go back to. It's something that's ingrained to me. But it's the other side of things now that I need to really like focus on and build on.
So when it was, and I realized that we're both pretty rubbish on dates, but we'll try anyway. So when did you first start the ground game?
When Wax was there, Waj, he was obviously working all round on MMA. But specifically when he went into ground game was when Mabsy came over, because he's a BJJ coach and also MMA coach. And as you know, he's a black belt coach as well. So when Mabsy came, then we start focusing a lot more on the fundamentals and working on the ground game. So that was, I think it was my third amateur fight, if I remember. Third semi-professional fight. When Mabsy went in my corner, and that's when we worked a lot on the ground game.
Did you finish that one in a triangle?
Yeah, I remember you were triangle.
Yeah. I remember watching that back. I was sick triangle. You just like long legs. I think it's suited for triangles, right?
Yeah, it was funny because I remember like on that fight, I was rushing a lot. Like we worked a lot more striking, but I remember he took me against the cage, and then I think I caught him with a shot. He dropped. And when I went on top of him, I tried taking his back and I slipped because I rushed so quick. I slipped, and then like it was like a period where I remember like 5-6 seconds. I looked and thought, I could get a triangle here, and then I managed to do it. And it was very fundamental, really basic, but it was one of them where in my head I thought it took me 5 seconds. I thought, actually, I've got a triangle here, and I just go for it. And
because watching it back, there was a moment where like his arm is in, his arm's out, and you're like, triangle, come on, go for it. And then you shoot up the triangle. But then once it's locked, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think he tried like pulling me up, but when he did that, I tightened it more. And I remember again, Mabsy and my cousin was in the corner. I could hear them shouting. So I knew, it's there. And at that point, I remember we used to work a lot on triangles, especially with my height as well. So it was something that I used to really like work on a lot. And the moment I got it, I knew, this is it. Especially when I put his arm across, I thought, I've got it now.
I want to talk to you about mindset because as somebody who competes, so I compete BJJ, but competing in MMA is a whole different world, right? So what's your mindset going into a match, into a fight?
To be brutally honest with you, I think that's something where I personally struggle. And that's me being honest. Compared to like my younger brother, he had like 58 fights as a boxer, and I used to always see him and I used to think, he's so confident, he's ready to go. Same with my elder brother, he was very confident, and they had very strong mindset. With myself, I always felt as if that's something that I've always had to work on, and that's just me being honest. Before the fight, I've always been shaking, nervous as hell. And that's something that I've always struggled with. But I think for me, it's more when I'm in there, once our first shot goes, first punch, once I feel it, then I kind of get into it again.
And I think it's kind of, I want to say this in the best way, good to hear from people who are more amateur and fighting in the amateur. So there's a couple of guys at the gym who are competing, right? And they get super nervous. To hear someone as experienced as yourself, still getting nervous, still feeling the tingles, it gives us a little bit of reassurance that actually, you know what, this isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's, for me, it's a lot of times it's the overcoming the fight. So like even any competition, I've always got nerves, but when you pass that stage and once you've done it, then it's a relief. It's like, you know what, I've actually done it, and you're proud of yourself because for me it's a challenge. It's a big, big challenge, and every single fight I've always been nervous. Regardless of what I say, I've always been nervous. It's just one of them things that I'll always have.
And so, do you have any tactics or have you built up any sort of mechanisms to deal with it?
I think it's more or less just believing in yourself, and also with your coaches as well. I think, you know, listening to them, you know, I'm pretty sure like no coach will put you in a fight where they don't feel you're ready. So I think having that confidence within your coaches, if they feel you're ready, I think it's more about yourself and just being prepared. Just train as much as you can, be prepared, be focused, and just, I think the main thing for it is prior to a fight, going through a good training camp and mentally working yourself, pushing yourself, putting yourself through the paces, physically training with, you know, much higher level guys and improving and working on things. And I think once your coaches give you the thumbs up, I think then after that it's more or less, you know, you go in there and just believe in yourself and do as much as you can.
So that's talking about like just before fight. So what happens in terms of mentally when you signed up for a fight? So let's say like your promoter rings you up and goes, "There's such and such person." Right? The question that I get asked a lot as a coach is, do I do research? Do I go on YouTube? Do I check this guy out or not? What's your take on it? How do you do that?
Myself, I think gradually it's come to a point where I don't really do much research anymore. Like now at the moment, I'm managed by a manager, and I kind of leave that to them. For me, I think when a fight gets confirmed, you're like, yes, I've got a fight, I'm focused, I'm ready. But I think it's when you get close and you know, right, I've got 5 days left. Oh no, it's 3 days. Oh, Wayne's coming now, and you know that mentally that kills you. And then you know, right, in a few hours I'm going to be fighting. It's a different kind of emotion. But I think that's the buzz about it. You know, I think just going through that experience, and I'm saying it now, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, you know what, it is a scary feeling. It is actually quite scary, but that's what you overcome. And when you overcome that challenge, after that, it's yeah, definitely. You've got a lot of satisfaction from it, 100%.
I want to talk to you. You mentioned something there about weight cut. Yeah. So it's something that we do a little. So we do a little bit in BJJ.
Yeah.
But we don't do massive weight because we do same day weigh-ins, right? But you guys do 24 hours before weigh-ins, right? And you lot cut a lot of weight. Right? So what's that process like? Because whenever I've been on a diet, I've been grumpy as hell. Right? But you lot are on it for like periods of time and you're doing high output work, right? So what's it like cutting weight?
I think it's more knowing your body. With myself, I've always known like what weight I need to be to cut weight. So ideally, a lot of the times, like at the moment, I'm walking around 89, 88, and I know that's not really a comfortable weight for me. But when I'm quite fit and I'm active, I'm usually around 85, 84. Once I'm around that period, gradually I get down to about, in a fight camp, maybe 80, roughly around 80, 81. And then that's when I do a little bit of water cut. But I've always done that and I've always managed to do it. I know gradually by the year it's got a little bit difficult, but not too difficult. I think it's about knowing your body, but the weight cut side of things, I've always been pretty good at. I've always been quite disciplined. I've kind of known how to work on my body, what calories to take, how to measure everything. Obviously, occasionally when I've took like a short notice fight, it's been difficult, but then still I've achieved it as well. So it's one of them things where I think it's all about just knowing your body and being sensible about it, and then just measuring everything and just making sure you've got everything under control. We're quite disciplined. It is difficult because, like, the kind of food you eat and the limitations that you have, it is difficult. But that's the whole point, that's the grind.
Like kind of like a wake up before the wake up type of thing, right?
Yeah.
You gotta be fit and healthy to be able to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's just all about knowing your body. And because I've done this for quite a few years, I know my body. I know how to work around things and how to reduce my weight. And again, also like with the coaches and the people that are around you, they kind of know what weight side of things you're going on to. So yeah, it's all about knowing your body and just working towards around that.
So I want to talk to you, and you mentioned a short notice fight.
Yeah.
So there's one particular short notice fight which kind of propelled you a little bit, I'd say. Right? You were very well known on the local scene, but this one propelled you into international scene. The fight for one championship. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I got a phone call off my manager. He says to me, "There's a big fight. There's been a pullout, and you're one of the guys that's been selected on this database who they've got all these particular fighters." He asked me for my weight. I gave my weight. I think I was around 90 kg, 89, 90 kg. I was kind of like similar to what I am at the moment. And he says to me, "Okay." He says, "Right, would you take a short notice fight?" I said, "Ideally, no, because I've just come back from holiday. I went on 2 holidays during that month." I said, "I'm not ready for the fight." And I'm brutally honest with him. I said, "I'm not ready." He said, "It's a big opportunity." I said, "Okay." But he said, "Look, I'm going to get back to you." So phone went off, that was that. And then literally like an hour and a half, I don't know what he's done. An hour and a half later, he rang me. He said, "Right, I'm going to tell you what show it is." He said, "It's on One Championship." And I'm there scratching my head thinking, One Championship, because it's a huge platform. So big. And he said, "Look, Furqan, I need you to take this opportunity." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what weight category is it at?" And he says, "Oh, it's going to be at 77. And I'm like, "Yeah, but look at my weight now." He's like, "Yeah, but I've told him you're a low weight anyways at the moment." So he kind of like told them I'm a bit short, smaller weight, because apparently whoever they were looking at this database, they were contacting everybody. So at that point, he says to me, "Look, focus on bringing your weight now down up until Sunday, and hopefully, we'll get something figured out." But he said, "Just bring your weight down." So immediately when he told me that, I thought, right, okay, I'm going to start bringing my weight down. So I remember the following day I went to the gym, bringing my weight down, just working on bringing my weight down. And then didn't hear anything off him. On the Sunday, I got the phone call. He asked me about my weight. Slightly down, not much. It was slightly down. And he says to me, "Right, okay, you're very close to getting this fight." I said, "Okay." He told me who the opponent was. He says India versus Pakistan. And at that point, it was one of them kind of fights where I wasn't really too keen on it, just because I wasn't ready and I knew the altitude of that fight is going to be huge. But again, he didn't care. He was just making sure he gets the fight signed and done. So I remember the Monday morning, it was like about probably 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. My phone was just ringing. And I answered the phone and he says to me, "Right, you've got a flight to catch." I'm like, "What?" He said, "You got a flight to catch." And he said, "This is a flight. So and so, these are the details." I'm like, "Look, I can't get that flight. It's too early. It's in Manchester." But literally, I think you were like in like 2 hours difference, like 5 a.m. the flight. So I said, "I can't do that flight," or 6 a.m. something like that. I said, "I can't do that flight." I said, definitely can't get that flight." And he's like, "Right, okay." I said, "Look, I need a bit of time. I need to see my parents. I need to go see my grandma. I need to see my family. I'm not gonna go like this." So then he eventually booked a later flight, and he says, "Right, who's going with you?" Got one of my coaches to come with me, who was Tanny at the time, and he was the boxing coach at KW. Got him to come along with me, and that was it. Went across to Singapore, and I remember going onto a flight again. I wasn't eating anything because I was trying to cut weight. Whilst we got to the airport, I remember I was just eating like small pieces of cabbage. I was just trying to eat small amounts just to see what I can get down with. I literally starved myself a lot. And the point when we got to Singapore, I checked my weight and I think I was around probably 86 and a half, 87. So I did reduce quite a little bit. And from that point, that was it. It was just like I did the weight cut process, which was the water cut weight. And I eventually made weight at 78.5 within the period of 4 or 5 days.
I think that's, if you go back earlier, that's knowing your body, right?
Yeah.
So if you ask the average Joe to cut that amount of weight,
Yeah.
it'd be catastrophic, right? You
Yeah,
won't be
of
able to
course.
cut it. But
Yeah.
you've done the process before, you know your body, you know your limits, you know how to do it because you've done it before, and you're able to do something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the crazy thing was, we had to pass a hydration test, and I actually passed the hydration test. So it kind of showed at that point as well, by passing hydration, that I was overweight. Like I went on 2 holidays, I was overweight, and just passing a hydration test by doing a walk cut as well was, yeah, it was. I was quite shocked about that, but it kind of like I says, I knew my body, I knew I can cut the weight quite quick, and like I says, I did refuel a lot of the times with a lot of water. But yeah, it was horrible. It wasn't the easiest process. Like I've got a video clip, funny enough, I seen on my phone over there from the time when I did do the weight cut, and it was my father that recorded me. And I remember I had towels over me and everything. It looks as if I'm gone. I was finished. And I remember just getting dragged back into the sauna constantly, and it was quite a grueling experience. But because of the opportunity and the magnitude of the fight, I thought, you know what, I'm going to stay professional. It's a big organization, and I did everything that was required.
Since then, after that, not that far after, COVID hit, and then there was obviously the whole mixed martial art industry basically had to shut down because we're pretty contact based, right? And then as it's opened up, you've got another couple of fights in. I think you've done a boxing fight, and you've done another MMA fight. What's next for Furqan?
Yeah, so like with the COVID period, I've not really had much activity. And it's been difficult because, there were times where, when I had the fight with Rahul, I was given a contract, and I thought, I'm going to get them fights. I think it was another 5 fights after that particular fight. And after that period, I thought that's going to happen. And then it was kind of like on that mindset of, right, a fight's going to happen. Hopefully I should get it. COVID's slowing down, and then COVID back up, and it was just all over the place. So them 2 years wasn't the best of 2 years. But now we're at a situation where I've got new management, Carl Messon, heavy duty management. There's opportunities that are there. They contacted me a lot of times with many opportunities, and I think the door's open now. There is opportunities there, but I've come to a point now, I think I'm past that stage of worrying about what's ahead. I think now I'm just going to train, enjoy myself, and just get as much fights as I can, and I want to get tough fights now. I think I've had in the past a lot of pullouts, and I used to be a ticket seller, and I've had a lot of opportunities on shows where I've kind of been like the ticket seller, and I've been looked after, etc. I think I'm past that stage now. I don't really want to sell tickets anymore. I kind of want to just go on a stage where I can be the underdog and get the tough fights, and that's it. I'll test myself. I think I'm past the stage of just like sitting on the sidelines and just wait for the fight. Now I've got good management, and I think they're going to bring the opportunities. I'm just going to take them.
You're talking about one there, and like what we're gonna do next from there. One thing I want to ask you, and I've been asking this in a couple of the podcasts, is advice to white belts, because you're quite an experienced mixed martial art guy. So a new guy coming through the door, and it's an intimidating experience, especially when you don't know that much about what we do and how we do it. What would your advice be to that white belt to say, listen, this is my one piece of advice for you?
Just go in there and just grasp all the knowledge you can. And you know what, crazy enough, go with the higher belts. Gain the knowledge from the higher belts. If you can roll with a higher belt, just keep doing that and gain that knowledge. I think being a white belt is the best position to be in, because that's the position where, that's the time for you to grasp and learn as much as you can and take as much knowledge as you can from everybody. And especially with the higher belts, just get the roll times with them. Just keep rolling with them and keep learning, because I think even with myself, that's something that I regret. I wish, I got the opportunity where, I got to roll with the high level guys and grasp that and keep learning. I think with myself, I focused on one discipline, and I've worked so hard towards that one discipline, but then I forgot about the other disciplines. And I think, being a white belt, I think this is the time where, in anything you do, like even being a white belt or being a beginner in striking or anything, just grasp as much knowledge as you can from the higher belts or the higher level guys, and just get in with them and just keep learning from them.
That's usually the opposite of what people want to do, right? You want to come in and you want to go against like people who are not as good as you, but you're saying go against people who are, and that's not going to be easy, right? Because I remember we've had some conversations where after some of the roles we've had, right, you've been like, that was a that I didn't want to do that. Yeah. So what you're saying is, even though going against the higher belts might be difficult, still go against the higher belts.
Yeah, like for example, like with yourself, like when I've been rolling with yourself, and there's been so many things that you brought to my attention. Like, look, there's this that you can do, or there's this. And what happens is, again, this is my personal opinion, but I think it's good to roll with a white belt, but like a white belt with a white belt, it's good to do that. But then I think it's better to roll with the high guys, because the high guys will pick out things that you're doing wrong, or things that you could improve on. Where if you're constantly rolling with a white belt level, you might end up ingraining them mistakes and just keep continuously doing them mistakes, not realizing that you're doing them wrong. But when you're actually with someone who's higher level, that person will pick out things, and these are the ways of you learning and getting better and improving. And I think with myself, I think even till now as well, like I would like to just be with the high level guys. Don't matter how many times I'll get tapped, don't matter what happens, it's development and learning. And I think it's very important to be with someone that's got the knowledge and the background and learn from them. And then obviously you can go and practice it against your own level, but it's good to always get that knowledge from someone who's got the knowledge.
Is there any shout outs, anything that you want to do? Because we've got one last role that we're going to do.
No, just thank you for having me on this podcast. I really appreciate it. And inshallah, hopefully this year is going to be a good year. We're going to get some activity, and hopefully I'm going to get plenty of roles with yourself and get whooped by you.